COVID didn't just change how we live, it changed the way we think about health. India's supplement market exploded from 2 billion to nearly 18 billion today. Zinc, vitamin C, ashwagandha, omega 3, these are now part of daily conversations. But the market growing this fast and this crowded, what does it take to build something that lasts? Our guest today is Rashi Mathur, co-founder of Vita One Supplements. She combines her passion for health and her entrepreneurial instinct. Trained in functional medicine, she and her co-founder, Dr. Anish Musa, built a brand rooted in science and education. This is Next Health, and you're listening to Dr. Smita. Rashi Mathur, co-founder of Vita One Supplements. Welcome to NXT Health. I'm your host, Dr. Smita.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. It's my pleasure to be here. I love to have conversations, interesting conversations with interesting people always. So thank you for having me here.
You know, supplements is a tough market. Everyone knows that it's a very, very saturated space. What was the gap in the industry that you were able to identify that other supplements, brands, and other things they were not able to address? And that's when you thought that Vita One is something that should be there in the market.
Dr. Smita, I would like to go back a few years, when we identified that, this gap is a huge gap. So the supplement market, I would say pre-COVID, was primarily divided into a binary kind of a segment. So there were only two segments. One segment was the sports supplements, right? And one segment was just the OTC multivitamin supplement. There was very, very little talk regarding, supplements, or very little noise regarding supplements. So nobody was really, taking supplements at that time. Supplements was a very scary word in terms of, when you said that, okay, I do take these supplements, or weird thing. Supplements was associated with a kind of a fake market, where imported supplements are coming in, a person is taking a protein supplement, and then, the synonym started with, oh, supplements will cause liver damage, right? And, the funny, ironical thing about somebody talking about liver being damaged by these supplements, NAC is a supplement used for liver detoxifying, also used for toxicity of, paracetamol. And this knowledge was there, but the clinical in-depth knowledge of these supplements was missing. That's where I, started identifying the gap. The shift in the US market had already happened that time. The Indian market was very raw. And what was happening in the US market, the sports supplements started shifting more towards targeted supplements, right? The wave got picked up at the Silicon Valley, right? The Silicon Valley was the place where there were lots and lots of smartest people on the planet who were hacking their own systems. The biohackers were there. They were using these supplements as protocols, right? They were doing targeted supplements, for brain, for their health, for their performance. And the entire market started shifting towards root cause medicine. It started shifting towards longevity, performance-based, right? Rather than the sports nutrition. Multivitamin is nothing. It is just that it has everything in it, but not at the correct dose, right? So you are not getting the correct form and you're not getting the correct dose. That is where the research of the supplement market had started in the US, and the practice of functional medicine started rising. I was, already in terms of, just riding that wave, taking those supplements, biohacking my own system. And I'm telling you, magic started happening. I started to see that how the health can actually change when you use these supplements correctly, right? To basically fix your physiology, right? In terms of if there is a deficiency of a B vitamin, right? In India, only B12 was given, right? But what about the cofactors? The B6 and the B9 was missing. This kind of study where your labs were being tracked, right? Where your energy levels were being tracked, all the system tracking started back then. I knew that this is, some place where I need to be. I was anyways very, very passionate about this space. And during that time, because it was a very early time, I had met Dr. Anish Musa, and we were just two people, same time, same place, same thought, right? that we needed to create this, right? Because that is when he started, guiding me about functional medicine, that if you really want to learn about the correct usages of these supplement protocols, you need to understand the practice of this functional medicine. We did plenty of, patients back then together, and we had collected data of almost 5,000 patients with these science-backed supplements which he was making. And I knew that, we are already on the right track. We were just waiting for the right time because we were very early on in that.
Yes.
And I will also tell you a very interesting story. This was right after COVID. And my mom had told me that, she has a ladies get together where all the women were from the age of 50 to 70. And it was just a regular lunch for them. And she told me that, why don't you go and talk about women's health to these people? They would love to hear you. I was like, amazing. Why not? And I thought that, I'll give a half an hour speech and most of them will be busy eating lunch. That was my kind. But, when I went there, I spoke for 2 hours and there was pin drop silence.
Wow.
And
Okay.
all these women out there, they were like maybe 40, 50 of them. They were so amazed that, how I started the, the thing with telling them that how the disease develops in the body and how do we change our diet, physiology, and how supplements play such a huge role in terms of, managing your health. And I spoke very, very elaborately and, this thing about magnesium. And that time, magnesium was not a word anybody had heard.
Yeah.
Right? Thankfully, over there, few ladies, their doctors had already started telling them that you can take magnesium for your cramps. So they were a little bit already accustomed and aware of what was happening. After my session, 2 hours, every lady over there, and this is around 5 to 6 years back, every lady over there got the magnesium supplement, took it, and it's been 5 years from now. All of them have continued taking it. They don't want to leave
beautiful.
because they say that now we really find that our sleep is improved. Those cramps have improved. They feel so much more better in, energy. And that's when I knew that it's just the education and the awareness. We have the right product. We have the right protocols. We're in the right space. Time aayega. And it's going to blow off, when the right time is there for these supplements. So we just need to have the knowledge. That's about it.
Okay. So that's how the Vita One started.
Yes. Because we had already identified the gap over there.
Correct.
And then we knew that we just had to build this ecosystem.
Now, if I look at like your competitors or brands that are there in the market for supplements, everybody call themselves high quality, everybody call themselves science backed. To call themselves science backed, what they will do for a particular ingredient, they will go to PubMed, search the articles and plug it over there. And with that, they are calling themselves science backed. Now, in such a space, how do you think, that Vita One is actually different? Especially in a meaningful way, because I know a little bit about Vita One. We have done a couple of discussions, but if you can explain that, that will be really great.
Dr. Smitha, that's actually a very key thing, that how are we different? When we started off, and you see our brochure is actually quite old, उसमें पूरा write-up लिखा था, and सबसे पहला write-up, whatever we had written, was that we are a science-backed company and functional medicine, everywhere we had stated, because that one question, right? Somebody asked me when I wanted to get into the supplement space, they asked me, this place is super crowded. How are you going to sell? I said, I don't see a single competition left, right? I want to get into this because the functional medicine space in India is missing, right? The ecosystem is missing over there. So where is the competition, right? I want to understand. Then they're like, आप बना तो लोगे, बेचोगे कैसे? COVID times में I sold 50 boxes of vitamin C, the liposomal vitamin C, in a week. So I knew that, it is the education, the awareness, the knowledge that is the key here, right? So when we talk about science backed, when companies claim that they are science backed, they're not wrong. If they are telling you that, the magnesium is going to help you sleep, right? It is going to help you sleep, right? So the claim is correct. But the system in how these supplements are to be implemented, to be taken, how to get the most benefit out of it requires in-depth clinical knowledge, right? The clinical feedback loop is that one USP, which I would say that every time we have any kind of a launch, or when we know that how these supplements work, our formulations are formulated keeping the physiology of the body in mind, right? So we don't formulate just a B12. It has to have its cofactors, right? If it is a methylation, then it will have to have the cofactors. Magnesium is never given alone, right? We as clinicians know that vitamin D creates synergy with the magnesium. So the key is our education part of it, and the protocols that we implement and educate, that how these supplements are to be taken, how we are different. Another gap where I saw in the market was that everybody is formulating, but there was no demand for trustworthy supplements, because supplements में वो आता था पता नहीं क्या मिला रहे हैं, what are
Correct.
they doing.
Correct.
The US market had already started building the trust factor, right? When it came to supplements, they were doing the lab testing, they were using clinically backed formulations, their
Yes.
ingredient selections was really, really good. The same narrative has now come to India, right? Because the demand is the same. The mindset, the consumer over here has had I would say that a very big mindset shift from supplements being dangerous to supplements being the talk of any kind of a table. So if you are at a restaurant, if there are women together, they'll be talking about the omega-3, they'll be talking about the magnesium. This is the base. At least the conversation has started out here, right? So the shift has been very, very drastic in terms of the Indian nutraceutical industry. Now we are not talking about bad quality supplements. The entire industry is going towards giving us clean ingredients. Heavy metals have been tested. Third party lab testing has started now in India,
Yes.
right? Even
Yes.
5 years back, then we had this thought, if we are consuming our magnesium, if we are consuming our supplements, right, we need to be sure that they are clean and it has what it says. So we started testing way long back, and that time there were no companies testing around that time. So we had to sit with these labs like Eurofins and get our entire testing protocols done, that this is what we need to be testing. And that wave has already picked up in the Indian
Yes.
market. So I would
Yes.
say that where we stand out is that we have the control of our own production. So whenever we source any ingredient or we formulate any supplement, right, end to end, right, whatever we do is in under our supervision and control. So we are just not a marketing company in terms of that. So we have taken it on us to be responsible enough to provide our consumers or patients or whoever's using our supplements that kind of responsibility. We've taken on ourselves to provide the trusted clean ingredient supplement, which is backed by lab testing, which most of the companies are doing. But also we attach a very important factor with this, which is awareness and education. So that is the biggest USP I think we have as a company, our clinical in-depth knowledge of these supplements.
Okay, okay, excellent. And again, I again agree with you. People are not aware when to take supplements, what's the dose, what's the recommended dose, what are contraindications, and we see that it's very formulated or very organized when it comes to prescription product. Prescription products. I'm a pharmacologist, so we undergo all the long process of clinical trials, and it's a pretty regulated market. And we know drug interactions, we know comorbidities, and how the doses need to be changed with that. When we talk about supplement market, it's not well regulated, and that's a advantage as well as a big disadvantage. It's crowded, but then regulations are not that stringent. Then in this thing, how do you ensure that the formulations, when the regulation is not asking for it, then it might be, it might come through that, okay, we don't need to do it. But I know Vitavan does it differently. So how do you ensure that formulations are truly effective and not just following the trends?
There has been a drastic shift of consumer mindset regarding this industry, right? So when the awareness comes, a consumer will ask that, is this heavy metal tested? are these ingredients, well sourced, or, how are you formulating? When those questions come in, right, we have to look for the answers, right? We have to do and we have to change the narrative as and when our consumers demand, right? So, in terms of the shift, right, the entire industry has shifted to clean ingredients now,
True.
right? So, when you see other brands saying that, we are using this ingredient because this is the right form, right? It is the right form because the entire industry's backup is now shifting to not providing those cheap quality supplements because the consumer is demanding clean supplements. So they have to provide the raw materials to us or they have to formulate as per clean, right? So one of the things we always realized was that whatever you are formulating or encapsulating, the only way to know if it is clean or not is to have a third party lab certificate with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
an independent lab certificate with you, so you can show that there is no contamination in these supplements, right? There's no heavy metals in these supplements. What we label is what we say, and trust me, at Vita One we label after testing. So we will create our labels once the product is tested, the assay content has been tested, and then we will go for the labeling. That is a lot of the practice which we adapted was the ones which were already happening in bigger companies, like, when we are talking about Metagenics, we're talking about pure encapsulations. Dr. Smita, we were using these in our clinics long back, and we saw the efficacy, and the doctors were using these supplements in the practice of functional medicine. The efficacy was, unbelievable. I tried, like, I knew the efficacy because I saw the huge change and shift in my own health. But from one patient to second to 5,000 patients, we saw the amazing change that happens when you correct the body's deficiencies or the basic physiology and use active, proper, functional ingredients to correct that, not the ones that don't work. So a lot of research work has started, in this space, and the consumer mindset is shifting. So the entire space has, been shifted. So talking about, the clean ingredients, that is, I think, where it's really taking a huge market shift.
Correct. And again, I again agree with you. I see that sustainability or transparency regarding where they are procuring the raw material from all is been now disclosed on the websites, and multiple brands are following the trends, which was not there like probably 4 years back. But as a consumer, if I go on Amazon, I see multiple options for every supplement that I want to take. Or if I go walk inside any store to buy supplements, I see multiple options. So as a consumer, if so many options that are there, how to filter, what to look for, and how to pick up right supplements which will be good for your health and it will not damage you in long term.
So I think one key rule that is coming up in the supplement space is personalized targeted supplements, right? Do you really need it, or are you just taking a generic for not knowing that it might work, right? So that question has already been, kind of 20 years back, that, it might work or not work. But the space we are right now in, the supplements are to be used. When we go to check our supplements, we should always get our lab reports checked. Do we need it?
Okay.
The personalized approach to supplement protocol is the one where you will get really good effectiveness. So just reading about this one ingredient, for example, just reading about that, when you take a milk thistle, it might help with your fatty liver, it'll help you detox. But a single ingredient doesn't have a synergy, right, to change your body's physiology or biology. It has to be in synergy. So when we talk about the five base supplements, I always tell that, the five base supplements one should always pick is your vitamin D3, right? Earlier it was bones and bones about vitamin D3. Now the new science has come out about how vitamin D3 helps with the immune modulation, right?
True.
It is absolutely necessary to keep your vitamin D levels, which I think everybody is already aware. So checking your reports, that if you are deficient in vitamin D3, rather than just doing blindly taking those 60,000 IUs and not following up with, how things are, I think that is very important. So, vitamin D3, magnesium, a B complex, and a good omega. This is the base foundation setting. How do you see if a supplement brand is good or not? Firstly, one has to understand to read labels, because labels can be very misleading in terms of, how much magnesium supplement might have, right? What dose of magnesium should it be? That do I need a higher dose because I'm into a chronic state of inflammation, or do I just need a maintenance dose just for 3 to 4 months, and then I can stop? So these are the things first we need to analyze, right, about ourselves, and then go in for the supplementation, seeing that the ingredient is a functional ingredient. It is not an ingredient which is inactive, or which is underdosed, or which is not going to work. So the efficacy, the label part of it, the lab test, all of these things together helps you make a decision in terms of, do you require that supplement or not, right? So education, again, about your own health plays a very, very important role in selection of the good supplement.
Perfect, perfect. I think you have given the gold standard protocol for anyone who's listening to us. I have few very, very important rapid fire questions for you, and I'll go for that. And then I have another important question that I need to ask. My first question is probiotics. Do you think it's overhyped or it's essential?
Probiotics, again, if used intelligently, right time, right dose, right strain, that's the way you go about probiotics. Probiotics can be an amazing game changer in anybody's health, but the strain matters. A generic probiotic, the way the market is taking all these probiotics and putting it into these sugary drinks and claiming this, claiming that, that's again like a multivitamin, that market. Now the probiotic space has taken so much into the research part in the world, that every strain has some kind of a target. So there are strains which work for your brain health. There are strains that work for your mitochondrial health. There are strains that are C4 specific. So that is where the education again is very important. What strain, what time, what dose. So that is the real play of probiotics, not the generic probiotics. Definitely.
My second question is one biggest red flag for poor gut health people ignore.
I think overuse of antacids.
Okay.
I think most chronic gut health issues and again allergies, immune dysfunctions are coming from overuse of antacids. I'll tell you a very simple, analogy how it goes. Because we are a heavy grain eating country, person eats excessive amount of carbohydrates, and nobody is telling them the carbohydrates are fermenting quickly the refined sugars, and the dysbiosis starts. Once the dysbiosis starts, the acid reflux and all, and then the overuse of antacids, because antacids can really make you feel good, right? You eat an antacid, you can get away with eating a chole bhature, but that is just masking, right? That's symptom masking. By the time you have used it to an extent where you already are having a compromised protein digestion, you can imagine, because you need that kind of a stomach acid to digest the protein, and then the entire system of the gut health goes this, because you're not absorbing the nutrients, the inflammation starts in the gut, the undigested protein creates havoc into your entire system. So it all starts with overuse of antacids. And I'm not telling, antacids have their own place, when prescribed by a doctor for, the use of it. But overuse, I have seen so many times where people are just going for vacations. They carry the Pantocid along. They're like, they cannot do without that, right? Then they come back and the acidity comes back. So again, it becomes very difficult for them to leave that. So they use antacids for years and years until they realize that the system is no longer even absorbing iron. That is the kind of chronic issues happening with just taking excessive grains in the diet.
Agreed. I have seen, like, I don't, but I have seen people like say that they pop up Pantocid like popcorn. So I've seen that it's really been
Absolutely,
misused.
absolutely.
My next question is fasting. Is it helpful for metabolic health or a misuse trend?
I don't understand one thing, that our bodies are naturally meant for fasting. If we go back, 20, 30 years back, fasting was a norm, and our body's physiology could take fasting. Because if 30 years back, right, there was no fluctuations of blood sugars and us feeling faintish even when we were not eating. The liver was there doing the job, and fasting was our body's physiology. Now when anybody does fasting, the blood sugar falls, there's too much of fluctuations, unko chakkar aate hain, they're not able to
Yeah.
fast, and then
Yeah.
it gives rise to, oh, this is a cortisol problem. Your body starts raising cortisol because the fasting stresses your body. But fasting is a natural way of our system, a detoxification of our bodies. So then why does fasting have to be stressful? You need to work on your metabolic health, and then you will realize that fasting can become a normal part of your system. So when you decide to do intermittent fasting, it's not going to stress your body because you have worked to get there metabolically. So suddenly, if your body is under a lot of inflammation and stress, and then you want to start fasting, right, there will be a rise in cortisol. So there is going to be a lot of stress in that body. So first, fix your metabolic health, fix your blood sugar fluctuations going up, down due to insulin resistance, and you will see how easy it becomes to fast. So I would say that you need to get to that stage where you can actually fast and get its benefit rather than fasting working against you, especially for women.
Perfect. My next question is gut health versus metabolic health. What drives what?
It's a two-way street. Metabolic health always comes first because the gut gets disrupted when the metabolic health also starts getting disrupted. How does the metabolic health get disrupted? Simple: insulin resistance, inflammation, too many carbs, again, leading to SIBO, SIFO. I know maybe I'm just putting it very simply. There are people who don't eat excessive carbs and they have a lot of gut issues. But then again, the topic which we have touched into, low stomach acid leading to several kind of infections. So I would say both are like, go hand in hand in terms of metabolic, poor metabolic health can disrupt gut health, and it will disrupt gut health, at some point of time. And poor gut health will disrupt your metabolic health. So you have to go, together for this. You can't correct only the gut health and leave the metabolic health out. So both has to be addressed together.
Correct. Tell me one thing that's damaging metabolism that people think it's healthy.
Hidden carbs, right?
Mhm.
See, the narrative already has changed in terms of, what sugar does, right? Earlier, there was a lot of Bonvitas being given to kids and all. Now, the
Yeah.
parents will not give anything which is gut damaging. But there is a lot of masking in the industry saying that this food does not contain sugar. Yes, it doesn't contain sugar, it doesn't contain preservatives. But when you look at the net carb value of that food, it's skyrocketing. Now, that is anyways going to cause you, your insulin resistance over there. I'm not talking about moderate carbs. So, when our body's tolerance level just disrupts, so when we take certain amount of carbs, right, and we are taking carbs like, the healthier carbs, or you whatever you want to call it, the unprocessed carbs, and the slow carbs or something, that is in moderation. So our bodies handle everything in terms of moderation. Now, when these net carbs become excessive, our body just converts it into plain sugar and fat, and the mechanism is same of taking sugar or taking, your excessive grains. And that is where people don't understand. The reason why I have highlighted this gap, because through and through my patients, our patient journeys or our client journeys of the last so many years, 5,000 patients, they come to us and they say that we have removed the gluten, we have removed the dairy, our weight is not coming down. We're still not getting that benefit. They get the benefits for 2 to 3 weeks and they feel good because, their gut seems to do better with gluten free foods. But the weight was not coming down. I identified that from morning till evening, they are taking foods which are high in net carbohydrates, saying that we've cut down on all our sugars, table sugars, honey, jaggery, dates, everything cut off. But the morning breakfast was 4 idlis. It was a huge plate of poha. It was a huge plate of fruit, bananas, poha, idli sandwiches. Those are all net carbs.
I have one last question for you is what's the future? What you're planning now for Vita One and where everything is heading?
So, in terms of future, we've always had very strong vision in terms of we don't see supplements as a product. We see supplements and this entire ecosystem as a solution. So, our vision is build the entire ecosystem in terms of, how we can support the practice of functional medicine, how we can get clean supplements to India. If you talk about the vision I have always seen in this space is to change the narrative of the entire industry, how it functions, how it works. And the shift is one thing that is the most important, and it's already happening. And
Yeah.
we want to be the ones who actually provide every tool required to build this ecosystem, be it the lab work. If Vita One has to do the lab work for it, provide you the education, provide you the clean supplements, provide you the knowledge. That's the big vision of Vita One, that we want to build the entire ecosystem for this side of the industry.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wish you lots of luck.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. I really had a good time. I didn't even feel like this is like a formal podcast. I just thought that we are having a great conversation here.
Thank you so much. Well said. And I thank you on behalf of my team. And we'll see you again. Bye bye.